In a world obsessed with chasing love, here's a truth that might shake you to your core. The moment you truly stop caring about finding someone is precisely when you become irresistible. Most relationship advice is built on the fantasy of becoming more appealing, more available, more perfect. But what if everything you've been taught about attraction is fundamentally wrong? What if the secret isn't in learning how to attract others, but in learning how to detach from the need for attraction altogether? This isn't just counterintuitive, it's revolutionary, and it explains why men consistently gravitate toward women who maintain emotional distance, even when more available options surround them. You know that feeling when someone pulls away, and suddenly they become all you can think about? That magnetic pull that seems to defy logic and reason. Today, we're going to explore one of the most fascinating paradoxes of human connection: why men are drawn to women who create emotional distance. Let me share something profound with you. In all my years of studying human behavior and relationships, I've noticed that we're often most attracted to what we can't fully grasp. It's like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands. The harder you try to hold on, the more it slips through your fingers. There's a universal truth that we rarely discuss openly: the power of emotional independence. When a woman stands complete in herself, not desperately seeking validation or completion from a man, she becomes like a brilliant star in the night sky, captivating, mysterious, and somehow just out of reach. It's this dynamic so fascinating. It isn't about playing games or manipulating emotions. It's about something far deeper and more meaningful. It's about the natural law of human attraction that occurs when someone is truly at peace with themselves. Think about the last time you encountered someone who didn't need your approval, someone who was perfectly content in their own skin. How did that make you feel? For most men, it triggers something primal, a desire to prove ourselves worthy, to earn that attention rather than simply receive it. The truth is, we're conditioned from an early age to chase what runs away from us. It's embedded in our DNA, this hunter's instinct that makes the pursuit as thrilling as the capture. But there's more to this phenomenon than mere primitive instincts. When a woman emotionally detaches, she creates a space, a void that begs to be filled. Nature abhors a vacuum, and human psychology works in much the same way. We're drawn to these emotional spaces not just because they're empty, but because they hold the potential for something meaningful. Consider what happens in your own mind when someone isn't readily available to you. The mental real estate they occupy expands exponentially. Every text message carries more weight. Every interaction becomes more significant. Their presence in your thoughts grows stronger precisely because their presence in your life. Many people misunderstand this dynamic. Emotional detachment isn't about being cold or unfeeling. It's about having such a strong sense of self that your happiness doesn't depend on another person's attention or validation. It's about being so completely fulfilled in your own life that any relationship becomes a choice rather than a necessity. This is what truly captures a man's attention. Not the act of withdrawal itself, but the underlying strength it represents. When a woman can stand firmly in her own power, when she can walk away from situations that don't serve her highest good, when she can maintain her boundaries without apology, that's when she becomes truly irresistible. The psychology behind this goes even deeper. We humans are meaning-making machines. When someone maintains emotional distance, we begin to create stories about them. We fill in the blanks with our own narratives, often painting pictures that are far more intriguing than reality could ever be. What men are really attracted to isn't the distance itself. It's what that distance represents. It represents mystery, yes, but more importantly, it represents self-respect. It shows that a woman values herself enough to not settle for less, and paradoxically, this makes men want to give her more. Think about how we value things in our lives. The things that come too easily, that are handed to us without effort. How long do we truly appreciate them? But the things we have to work for, the relationships we have to invest in, the connections we have to earn, These are the ones that hold lasting value in our hearts. When a woman maintains healthy emotional boundaries, when she doesn't immediately invest all of herself in a relationship, she's demonstrating something power. She's showing that she understands her own worth. This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about genuinely being hard to get because you have standards, values, and a life that you're not willing to compromise. The men who are attracted to this quality are often the ones who are ready for something real. They're drawn to the challenge not because they want to conquer it, but because they recognize the value in someone who knows their worth. They understand that a woman who can maintain her emotional independence is also a woman who can maintain her identity within a relationship. This creates a fascinating dynamic where the very act of not needing someone makes you more desirable to them. It's not manipulation. It's a natural law of human interaction. When you're complete in yourself, you become magnetic to others who recognize and value that completeness. This isn't about deliberately withholding emotion or creating artificial distance. It's about developing such a strong sense of self that your happiness, your fulfillment, and your sense of worth aren't dependent on anyone else's validation. The most powerful form of emotional detachment comes from a place of self-love and inner security. It's not about building walls to keep others out. It's about building such a strong foundation within yourself that you don't need others to hold you up. This is where true attraction begins, in the space between neediness and indifference. It's that sweet spot where you can fully love and open your heart to someone while maintaining your own emotional sovereignty. This is what men find truly irresistible. A woman who can love deeply but stand firmly in her own power. The most profound truth about emotional detachment isn't just about creating distance. It's about understanding the power of self-containment. When you can sit comfortably in your own silence, when you can find joy in your own company, you develop an aura that others can't help but notice. Let's talk about something that might seem counterintuitive at first. Have you noticed how the people who seem least interested in seeking love are often the ones who attract it most easily? There's a reason for this, and it goes beyond simple psychology. It touches the very essence of human nature. The energy you project when you're emotionally self-sufficient is entirely different from the energy of seeking or needing. It's like the difference between a flower that naturally attracts butterflies and someone running around trying to catch them. The flower doesn't move, doesn't chase, doesn't beg for attention. It simply blooms, and in its blooming, it becomes irresistible. This principle manifests in every aspect of life, but nowhere is it more evident than in romantic relationships. When a woman has developed this level of emotional self-sufficiency, she creates what I call AI magnetic void. A space around her that draws others in precisely because she isn't trying to pull them closer. But here's where most people get it wrong. They try to imitate emotional detachment without understanding its true nature. They confuse aloofness with independence, coldness with strength. Real emotional detachment comes from a place of fullness, not empty. It's about being so complete in yourself that you don't need someone else to fill your gap. Consider what happens when you're truly passionate about something in your life. A career, a hobby, a personal mission. When you're fully engaged in pursuing your own path, you naturally create this attractive force around you. Men aren't just attracted to the emotional distance. They're attracted to the purpose and passion that often accompany it. The most fundamental truth here that we need to understand. The most attractive quality in any person isn't their appearance, their achievements, or even their personality. It's their relationship with themselves. When you have a healthy, whole relationship with yourself, you don't enter relationships looking to be saved or completed. This creates an interesting paradox in the dating world. The women who are most successful in finding meaningful relationships are often the ones who are most comfortable with the possibility of not finding one. They've developed what I call peaceful indifference. Not an absence of desire, but an absence of desperation. Think about the energy you bring into a room when you're completely at peace with who you are. There's no need to prove anything, no need to impress anyone, no need to fill the silence with nervous chatter. This energy is palpable, and it's magnetically attractive to others, especially to men who are seeking authentic connections. The power of emotional detachment lies in its ability to create space. Space for growth, space for genuine connection, and most importantly, space for the other person to step up and prove their worth in your life. When you're not rushing to fill every emotional gap, you give others the opportunity to show up in meaningful ways. But let's be clear about something. This isn't about being unavailable or creating artificial barriers. It's about being so grounded in your own worth that you naturally filter out connections that don't meet your standards. It's about understanding that loneliness and solitude are two very different things. In my observations of human behavior, I've noticed that men are particularly drawn to women who maintain their own sacred space. There's something deeply attractive about someone who has clear boundaries, who knows when to say no, and who isn't afraid to prioritize their own well-being. This kind of emotional self-governance creates a fascinating dynamic in relationships. When a woman isn't emotionally dependent on a man's attention or validation, it allows him to choose her freely rather than feeling chosen out of him. This distinction is crucial. It's the difference between wanting to be with someone and needing to be. The truth is, men want to feel that their presence in a woman's life adds value rather than fills a void. When a woman is emotionally self-sufficient, any attention or affection she gives comes from a place of genuine desire rather than emotional need. This makes her attention infinitely more valuable and meaningful. Consider how this plays out in everyday interactions. When you're not hanging on someone's every word, when you're not anxiously waiting for their call or text, when you're fully engaged in your own life, that's when you become most intriguing to others. It's not about playing games. It's about living authentically. This kind of emotional independence also creates a healthy challenge for men. When a woman isn't easily swayed by surface-level charm or basic attention, it pushes men to bring their best selves forward. They have to demonstrate their value through actions rather than just words. But perhaps the most powerful aspect of emotional detachment is its ability to, when you're not emotionally invested in every potential connection, when you're not riding the roller coaster of other people's opinions and actions, you maintain a level of peace that is incredibly attractive. Think about the difference between someone who is constantly seeking approval and someone who moves through life with quiet confidence. The first person exhausts their energy trying to please others, while the second conserves their energy by staying true to themselves. Which do you think is more attractive? This brings us to another crucial point: the relationship between emotional detachment and personal power. When you're not emotionally dependent on others, you maintain your power in relationships. You make decisions based on what's truly best for you, rather than fear of losing someone's attention or approval. The beauty of this approach is that it creates space for real, authentic connections to develop. When you're not clutching at every potential relationship, when you're not trying to force connections that aren't naturally flowing, you create room for the right connections to find their way to you. The most fascinating aspect of emotional detachment is how it transforms not just our relationships with others, but our relationship with ourselves. When you step back from the constant need for external validation, something remarkable begins to happen. You start to hear your own inner voice with stunning clarity. Let's explore something deeper about this phenomenon. Have you noticed that the moment you stop seeking approval is often the moment you begin to receive it? This isn't coincidence. It's a fundamental law of human interaction that plays out in countless ways every single day. The truth about emotional detachment is that it creates a kind of psychological mirror. When a woman maintains her emotional independence, she reflects back to men their own need for validation, their own insecurities, their own desires. This mirror effect is incredibly powerful because it forces men to confront their own emotions. But here's what makes this dynamic so remarkable. It's not just about attraction, it's about transformation. When a woman maintains healthy emotional boundaries, she's not just attracting men, She's actually helping to create better men. She's establishing a standard that encourages growth, self-reflection, and genuine emotional. Think about the energy you bring into your relationships when you're coming from a place of emotional wholeness rather than emotional hunger. It's like the difference between drinking water because you're thirsty and drinking water because you enjoy its refreshing taste. One comes from lack, the other from appreciation. The power of emotional detachment lies in its ability to create what I call conscious spaces. The kind of space that allows both people in a relationship to grow, to breathe, to evolve. This isn't about creating distance for distance's sake. It's about creating room for something meaningful to develop. Consider how this plays out in the early stages of attraction. When a woman isn't immediately available emotionally when she maintains her own pace and boundaries, she creates a natural filter that weeds out men who aren't willing to invest time and energy into building something real. This filtering process is crucial because it's not about playing hard to get. It's about actually being selective about who gets to share your emotional space. It's about understanding that your energy is precious and not everyone has earned the right to access it freely. But here's where many people misunderstand emotional detachment. They think it means being cold or unavailable. Nothing could be further from the truth. Real emotional detachment comes with a profound warmth and genuine care for others. It's just that this care isn't dependent on receiving anything in return. When you operate from this level of emotional independence, you create what I call a high-value presence. This presence is magnetic because it combines warmth with strength, accessibility with boundaries, openness with discernment. It's a delicate balance that few achieve, but many are attracted to. The most powerful aspect of this approach is that it forces others to meet you at your level. When you maintain high standards for emotional investment, when you refuse to settle for superficial connections, you naturally attract people who are capable of meeting those standards. Think about the difference between someone who's willing to accept any kind of attention and someone who only accepts attention that aligns with their values. The first person might get more quantity, but the second person invariably gets more quality. And quality is what creates lasting attraction. This brings us to another crucial point: the relationship between emotional detachment and personal growth. When you're not constantly seeking external validation, you create space for internal development. This space becomes a crucible for personal transformation, making you even more attractive in the process. The truth is, men are drawn to women who challenge them to grow, who inspire them to be better versions of themselves. But this inspiration can only come from someone who is actively working on their own growth, who is committed to their own evolution regardless of relationships. Consider how this manifests in everyday interactions. When you're fully engaged in your own life's purpose, when you're pursuing your own goals and dreams, you naturally become more attractive. It's not just about being busy or unavailable. It's about being purposeful and directed in your life. This kind of focused energy creates what I call an attraction field, a space around you that naturally draws others in. But unlike the desperate energy of seeking attention, this field is created by the genuine pursuit of your own truth, The power of this approach lies in its authenticity. You're not trying to create artificial distance or play mind games. You're simply living your life with such purpose and conviction that others can't help but be drawn to your energy. But here's what makes this truly remarkable. When you maintain this level of emotional independence, you actually become more capable of genuine intimacy. Because you're not desperately seeking connection, you're able to form deeper, more meaningful connections when they naturally arise. Think about the quality of attention you can give to others when you're not needing anything from them. When you're emotionally self-sufficient, your presence becomes a gift rather than a demand. This shift in energy is palpable, and it's incredibly attractive to others, especially to men. The most profound truth about emotional detachment is that it actually leads to deeper attachment, but on your own terms, at your own pace, and with the right people. It's like having a filter that only allows genuine connections to pass through while naturally repelling superficial ones. When you maintain this level of emotional sovereignty, you create what I call a value vacuums a space that can only be filled by someone who truly adds value to your life. This isn't about being demanding or difficult. It's about having such a rich, fulfilling life that only genuine connections are worth your investment. The most profound realization about emotional detachment is that it's not really about detachment at all. It's about attachment to something far more powerful. Your own truth, your own path, your own inner wisdom. When you're deeply connected to yourself, external validation becomes less important. Let's explore something that might seem paradoxical at first. The more you develop your emotional independence, the more capable you become of forming genuine connections. It's like developing strong roots before extending your branches. The deeper your self-connection, the higher you can reach in your relationships with others. What makes this principle so powerful is its universal application. Whether you're in a relationship seeking one or choosing to be single, emotional independence creates a foundation of strength that enhances every aspect. It's not just about attracting men. It's about attracting the right experiences, opportunities, and connections. Consider the energy field you create when you're truly centered in your own worth. It's like having an internal compass that always points toward your true north, regardless of external circumstances. This unwavering sense of direction is incredibly attractive to others, especially to men who are seeking authentic connections. But here's what makes this dynamic so fascinating. The attraction isn't just about the confidence you project. It's about the space you create for others to discover their own strength. When you're emotionally self-sufficient, you give others permission to be the same. Think about the quality of relationships that develop when both people are coming from a place of wholeness rather than need. These connections have a different flavor. They're based on choice rather than necessity, on want rather than need, on mutual growth rather than mutual dependency. The truth about emotional detachment is that it creates what I call a growth container, a space where both people can evolve individually while growing together. This container is precious because it allows for both intimacy and independence, both connection and autonomy. This brings us to a crucial understanding about attraction. Men aren't just attracted to the mystery of emotional detachment. They're attracted to the strength it represents. When a woman can maintain her emotional sovereignty, she demonstrates a level of self-mastery that is deeply compelling. But here's where many people misunderstand this principle. They think emotional detachment means being unavailable or unfeeling. Nothing could be further from the truth. Real emotional detachment comes with a profound capacity for feeling, but also with the wisdom to choose where and how to invest those feelings. Consider the difference between someone who gives their emotional energy freely to anyone who asks, and someone who invests it wisely in relationships that align with their values. The first approach leads to depletion. The second leads to enrichment. The power of emotional detachment lies in its ability to create what I call conscious boundaries, limits, that aren't walls but rather filters, allowing the right connections to flourish while naturally screening out those that don't serve your highest good. When you maintain this level of emotional discernment, you create a natural hierarchy in your relationships. Not everyone gets equal access to your emotional energy, and this selective sharing makes your attention and affection more valuable to those who receive. Think about how this principle manifests in everyday life. When you're not desperately seeking connection, when you're not trying to fill every moment with interaction, you create space for meaningful encounters to occur naturally. This space becomes magnetic, drawing others toward you without effort. The truth is, men are particularly attracted to women who maintain their own sacred space because it challenges them to rise to a higher standard. When you're not easily impressed, when you require more than surface-level charm, you force others to bring their best selves forward. This creates an interesting dynamic where the very act of maintaining emotional independence becomes a catalyst for deeper connection. It's like creating a vacuum that can only be filled by genuine, meaningful interaction. But here's what makes this approach truly powerful. It's not about manipulation or playing games. It's about being so deeply connected to your own worth that you naturally attract others who recognize and appreciate that worth. Consider the energy you bring into a room when you're completely at peace with who you are. There's no need to prove anything, no need to seek approval, no need to build a silence with nervous chatter. This kind of peaceful self-containment is magnetic. The most profound aspect of emotional detachment is its ability to create what I call authentic attraction that's based on genuine recognition of worth, rather than temporary infatuation or surface-level appeal. When you maintain your emotional sovereignty, you create a standard that others must meet. This isn't about being demanding or difficult. It's about knowing your worth and allowing others to rise to that level naturally. Think about the quality of attention you can give to others when you're not needing anything from them. When you're emotionally self-sufficient, your presence becomes a gift rather than a demand. This shift in energy is palpable, and it's incredibly attractive. The power of this approach lies in its authenticity. You're not trying to create artificial distance or play mind games. You're simply living your life with such purpose and conviction that others can't help but be drawn to your energy. As we come to understand the profound truth about emotional detachment, we realize that it's ultimately about freedom, the freedom to be yourself, to choose your path, to invest your energy where it truly matters. This freedom becomes a beacon that naturally attracts others who value authentic connection. Let's talk about something that many people overlook in this journey. The most powerful form of attraction isn't created by what you do. It's when you develop emotional independence, you're not just changing your relationship patterns. You're transforming your entire way of being in the world. Consider the ripple effect this transformation creates in your life. When you're no longer seeking validation from others, when you're no longer trying to fill emotional voids with relationships, you begin to attract people who are drawn to your wholeness rather than your need. This brings us to a fundamental truth about human connection. The strongest relationships are formed between people who don't need each other but choose each other. When you develop emotional independence, you create the foundation for this kind of powerful conscious choice. Think about the energy you project when you're standing firmly in your own power. It's not about being unapproachable or aloof. It's about being so grounded in your own worth that you naturally attract others who recognize and respect that worth. The most fascinating aspect of this dynamic is how it completely transforms the dating landscape. When you're emotionally self-sufficient, you stop settling for less than you deserve. This isn't about having unrealistic standards. It's about having standards that align with your true worth. But here's what makes this principle so powerful. It works regardless of your circumstances. Whether you're single, dating, or in a relationship, emotional independence creates a foundation of strength that enhances every interaction, every connection, every choice you make. Consider how this manifests in your daily life. When you're not desperately seeking connection, when you're not trying to force relationships to work, you create space for genuine connections to develop naturally. This space becomes magnetic, drawing others toward you without effort. The truth about emotional detachment is that it creates what I call a value resonance, a natural attraction between people who operate at similar levels of emotional maturity and self-awareness. This resonance can't be faked or forced. It can only be created through genuine inner work. Think about the difference between someone who's constantly seeking attention and someone who's completely at peace with themselves. The first person exhausts others with their needs. The second person energizes others with their presence. This brings us to perhaps the most important understanding about emotional detachment. It's not just about attracting others. It's about becoming the kind of person who naturally attracts the right people and opportunities into their life. When you maintain your emotional sovereignty, you create what I call a high-value field around you. This field naturally filters out connections that don't serve your highest good while attracting those that align with your authentic self. Consider the profound shift that occurs when you stop seeking completion through relationships and start seeking growth through self-discovery. This shift changes not just who you attract, but how you attract them. The power of emotional detachment lies in its ability to create space for genuine connection while maintaining personal boundaries. It's like having a door that's neither locked nor wide open. It's simply well-regulated, allowing the right people in at the right time. But here's what makes this approach truly transformative. It's not about becoming someone else or playing a role. It's about becoming more fully yourself, more authentically aligned with your own truth and values. Think about the quality of life you create when you're no longer dependent on others for your emotional well-being. This independence becomes a foundation for all your relationships, allowing you to connect from a place of strength rather than need. The most profound truth about emotional detachment is that it actually leads to deeper, more meaningful connections. When you're not desperately seeking love, you become more capable of giving and receiving it authentically. This brings us full circle to understanding why men are attracted to women who maintain emotional independence. It's not just about the mystery or the challenge. It's about the strength, authenticity, and self-awareness that this independence represents. As we conclude this exploration, remember that emotional detachment isn't about building walls. It's about creating healthy boundaries. It's not about becoming cold or unavailable. It's about becoming more authentically available to the right. Your journey toward emotional independence is perhaps the most important investment you can make in your relationships. It's the foundation upon which all genuine connections are built, the source from which all authentic attraction flows. Remember, the goal isn't to become emotionally unavailable, it's to become emotionally sovereign. When you achieve this sovereignty, you naturally attract others who respect and value the strength it represents. This is your invitation to